What do you do for your job, and how do you show leadership in your position?
I'm a trial paralegal with Panashe and Boyle. I'm a supervisor to about 3 junior paralegals. To show leadership for them, I give them projects, and I tell them what I want to happen at the end of the project. I give them the freedom to do the project however they think best way for them to achieve that end product. I believe by allowing them to do whatever they think best, it kind of gives them a little free range of how they do their job so they enjoy their job more. And I think that's a good point for any leader, is to give their people some range to do the things they want, the things that need to be done the way they want to do it, so they enjoy their job and they understand that the end product has to be done by a certain time. Hopefully that makes sense.
How do
I do
you
work in the legal career, so there's a lot of legalese and back talk stuff. Go ahead.
how do you influence everyone that you're in charge of?
Well, how do I influence? That's kind of
How do you show your
big
leadership
question.
towards them by influencing them that you can have
So,
for
let's
your
say, for
brain?
example, I have a project that I need to be done. I'll show them how I did it to get to where I need it, to the end product that we produced to the attorneys in trial. So I'll tell them, this is the way I did it. This is what they expect at the end, so that they use at trial. You can either do it my way, or you can do it whatever way you think is best that'll achieve the final product the same as what I achieved. And then, like I said before, I previously said, I give them the freedom to do it their way, so they enjoy their job, and they can do it in a way that's going to make them happy doing their job. And secondly, it gives them a little bit of authority on how they're going to do the job. So it gives them their own way of doing it. That's what kind of made me happy doing my job, is that I've been fortunate enough to work for people that tell me, this is what I need done. You do it the way that you want to do it, but this is what I want at the end. And that made me enjoy my job while I was doing it, and still achieving what they expected from me. So they kind of give you that little bit of leeway. So it kind of gives you, autonomy of how to do the job.
So when you communicate to your workers, do you communicate towards them in certain different ways? Like, for example, if one person needs to be talked straight at, will you talk straight at them, or do you figure out how you will communicate towards them in each different manners?
That's actually a good point. There is, the longer you work at a place with people, the more you get to know those folks. I spend more time here than I do with my own family. I kind of know how to address and how to approach different people here at the firm. For folks that just start out, I still tell them straight out that I just tell it how it is. I straight out tell them. If that's the approach that they don't like, I ask them to tell me how they like to be approached about work, because I want to make sure that I'm as clear as possible when I give them instructions on what to do. But that is important, is that you get to know the folks you work with, or the people that are underneath you, that work for you, I should say, underneath you. You all work together. But the people that work with you is know how to approach them. And that kind of helps you get the most out of the people, too, is by working with their strengths and their faults, and then also knowing how to instruct them on how to do jobs. Did I answer that question? Hopefully I answered it.
Yeah.
Was that a good answer? I guess I should ask if that was a good answer. Good.
What does being a great leader mean to you?
Well, I don't know about a great leader. Being a good leader, I mean, great leaders, lead countries out of economic strife, lead countries out of war. So that's a great leader. A good leader, I think, is welcomes criticism, because even though what I like to do, the people I work with, I like to surround myself with people that don't think the same way I do. Because then if I surround myself with people that the same way I do, then we all think the same way. I want people that kind of think differently than me, that can bring something to the team. So I think criticism is one big thing. I don't mind being criticized about my work. If they can help me out, maybe I've been doing something too long, or if, I have been doing this for a long time, and some of the younger folks might have a, faster way of doing it, or, more and more that we rely on electronics and software. If there's something that I'm missing that I could be using to make my job more efficient and faster and better, then I'm always open for that. So I think accept Accepting of criticism is always something key that I think every good leader should accept. Another, I guess, good quality of being a leader is, like I've said previously, and I keep saying, is kind of letting the folks that work with you to kind of do their job the way they want to do it. That's going to make them happy doing their job. So you want the people that work with you or underneath you to be happy doing their job. And I think giving them the freedom to do projects the way they think best and still come up with the end product that you expect from them, I think that is also something that a good leader should do. A good leader also understands that you need balance between work and life. Right. So another thing too is I think as a good leader, you got to understand that there's got to be a good balance between work and personal life. I actually learned this from a manager a long time ago when I used to work with Allstate, is that he understood that, you needed a balance to spend time with your family, your friends, doing stuff you enjoy outside of work, so that when you come to work, you enjoy being at work because you also have a balance in life. Too many people kind of just are workaholics, and unfortunately, because of technology nowadays, you're always connected. I think it's important to understand that you gotta give those folks that work with you or work for you a little bit of leeway sometimes to understand that there's personal time. I personally don't like to contact anybody I work with or that works for me anytime like after 7, and definitely not anytime before 7 a.m. in the next morning. So I understand that, we need a balance. So I think as a good leader, you got to understand that also. And as a good leader also, I think what's important is that you show and you demonstrate your appreciation to the folks that work with you or for you. Too many times people, and I think my work here is no exception, is that a lot of folks expect a lot of work from people, but they never say thank you, appreciate it. This is really good work. This is great work. Those words take you a long way with a lot of people, including myself. You don't always need a raise. You don't always need a bonus. Just, show appreciation that I take it, and show appreciation in front of others that somebody did a job. Pointing them out is also very important. Give credit where credit is due, kind of thing. So those are 3 kind of qualities I think as a good leader you should have.
How would you rate yourself being a leader from 1 to 10?
That being the best leader?
Yeah, 10 being the best.
I would say probably like an 8, just because I'm stubborn and old school sometimes. I have my way of thinking of things, and I like to, even though I say I like to take criticism, I do accept criticism, but I have a tendency to butt head sometimes. So an 8.5.
What makes you a good leader?
I'm approachable. Although everybody, as soon as they walk up, starts laughing because apparently I'm funny looking or something. I don't know. Nobody can take me seriously. But no, I'm approachable. I always leave my doors always open. I rarely close my door. So my door in my office is always open. I'm always approachable. I always tell people there's no question that, you shouldn't ask. And I also tell people that I might not always have the answer, but if I don't have the answer, I'll find the answer for you. And I tell them that they should do the same. You should never tell anybody, no, I don't know. Well, no, I can't find out. You should always say, if somebody asks you a question, goes, you know what, let me look into that for you. You should always make that effort to kind of look into things and try to find the answer, not only for yourself, but also for whoever's asking the question. So I think one of my things is I'm approachable, and I don't mind sharing things. A lot of people are kind of proprietary about the stuff they put together or they might create. I don't do that. Here at our firm, I consider us all a team. And, one person wins, we all win. So approachable, again, and I don't mind sharing my work with others to show them how I do it.
Now you're saying about, you're approachable. Do you think that causes more people to come towards you from the communication of knowing who they are and how to talk to them?
I don't understand the question, sorry.
So,
You're afraid?
you said you're approachable?
Mm-hmm.
So, coming from that, the communication towards your workers and what you want them to do and how you talk to them, do you think that's why they keep coming back to you or at doing everything correctly and respect you?
Well, I being approachable, so I like I make sure that they know that I'm approachable, because I don't want them to, especially on long projects and where we're kind of crunched for time. If we're getting ready for trial and there's stuff that has to be done now, there's really little room to correct stuff if it's done incorrectly. So I would rather they come back and ask me 20 times than come back, ask me one question, come back, and then find out right at the day of trial that we have to redo all our exhibits, which is a huge task, and it takes a very long time. And usually when you start trial, you don't have time to do that. So I make sure that they're aware that I do, like you said, make sure that they understand that I'm approachable anytime. Ask me as many times questions, because, and also it depends what the project is. I let them know, hey, this is what we need to get with these exhibit budgets before trial. Come back. I can ask them many times, because if something's messed up, same thing as well, fix it. So please ask me as many questions as you want. And then if it's such something that's going to take some time, I go, you know what, this is a project that, you can take, a couple of weeks to put together, do your best job, whatever you can, and then, Can you just pause for a second?
What advice would you give someone going into a leadership position for the first time?
I would tell them to make sure that everybody on their team knows that they're approachable, that they can be, they can be approached and asked any kind of questions that they might have. That open door policy, I think, goes a long way with people when you first start out as a leader, because they don't know you, you don't know them. For you to let them know that you can, they're more welcome to come and talk to you at any time about anything, I think is very important. A while back, before I actually started working here, I was working at Allstate as a customer service representative, and I actually had about 34 customer service reps. And, it was mostly college students, and they, we'd hire new ones all the time because, they'd come and go. They're kind of weird hours, but that's one thing I always made sure that all my reps knew, is that they could always come in and talk to them about anything. I told them, even if it's, personal, as long as it's not too personal, they can definitely come in. I let them know I'm big into sports. If they want to just come in and just chat about sport. So, come in and say hi. So I think to make sure that you're approachable to everybody. Also, when you talk with people, you kind of start reading them, and you kind of know what their strengths are, their weaknesses are. And you learn how to approach people to get the most out of those people. So there's kind of two things that I think would be. And then the third thing is, let them know that, you don't expect everybody to think the same way you do. As I said before, I think it's important to surround yourself around people that don't think the same way you do. You don't want 7 people thinking the same way you do. You're always going to have the same ideas. You want people that can bring something new to the team. And the other thing is, I think you really need to emphasize that it's a team thing. If you're going to work with people, and you're going to be in a leadership role over people, you need to let them know that you all are a team. You take credit as a team, and you lose as a team. And I think maybe that just comes from my sports background and being in sports forever, is that I think you got to approach something like that and be a leader like you're on a team.
When faced with equally qualified candidates, how do you determine whom to hire?
That's a good question. I guess in my work, I would maybe come up with a scenario, or maybe a couple of scenarios, to see how they would address them. I think of one scenario would be like, if we're in trial, I could think of something that I experienced, maybe an issue that came up during trial, and then put them in the same situation and let them see how they address each one of their questions. Each one of the issues, and see how they address them on fixing it. That would be one of them. The other one is, because we deal a lot with customers, or not customers, but a lot with clients, is give them scenarios. Also, another past experience that I might have had with a difficult client. We work on a lot of cases, but for a lot of our clients, their case is the number one case. And unfortunately, a lot of our clients have been traumatically injured and catastrophically injured. So I would tell them a scenario maybe where you have a client that's not necessarily difficult, but they just need a lot of attention and time, and then see how they would play it out and how they would work out. I would give them an instance where the client might come in and ask for a certain thing, or call about a certain issue, and then ask them how they would address that and see how they respond to that. So I would put them in like real life situations using my past experience and then find out how they would address it, and select that from there based on their responses.
How do you maintain yours and your team's daily motivation and inspiration despite obstacles, pushbacks, or setbacks?
Yeah, well, That's actually a good question, especially in my work, because a lot of times, paralegals here work with attorneys, and a lot of the work that we do has to be reviewed by them because they get signed. Starting out, they do a lot of reviewing. Fortunately, I've been kind of doing this long enough that I can pass that work on, and they very little times did ever review it. But to keep the people that work with me motivated is to let them know that, ultimately our clients are not the attorneys we work with, because those the attorneys we work with are the people that we work for, and our clients are actually the folks that have been injured. So, going back to the question I had asked about, or I had actually mentioned about putting a candidate in a position, telling them that, we have a client that's going to be difficult, but not necessarily being difficult, but he's got to understand that client's, their case is their life. So just need to let them know that that's the case, is that even though the work might be tough at times, it might be hard at times, that the satisfaction that you'll get at the end of the day of helping somebody out is huge. And that's what's kind of kept me motivated doing this for as long as I have, is that ultimately, the attorneys will get the credit, because, very little times do we ever get the credit as paralegals, but that ultimately you're helping somebody. You're helping them, after they've been wronged by somebody, you're helping them out.
Can you name someone who is a good model leader and why?
Well, actually, I was thinking I can think of a couple of people, actually 3 people. My grandfather on my mom's side, my dad, and actually Abraham Lincoln. I think they're all, in certain ways, they're good role models for me growing up. My grandfather was a self-made man. He kind of, did everything his way. It never, it's out nowadays, kind of is unheard of, but he never owned a credit card, paid cash for everything, and lived the life that he wanted to live. So he was a good role model in that he didn't care what other people thought. He did it his way, and he was happy. And that's the thing, is that he was happy and his family was happy. My dad was kind of the same way too. I mean, he, was born and raised in Colombia, then came here, brought my mom with them. They didn't know anybody. They just started brand new, and to be that adventurous, you got to go out and be a leader at the same time of his, small young family. It kind of shows you that you have to be courageous as a leader also. And then Abraham Lincoln, I think everybody knows about Abraham Lincoln. I mean, again, another self-made man. I think the guy failed the bar like 4 times before he passed it. Didn't, he knew what was he knew what was right and what was wrong, even though a lot of people didn't believe in him. And he changed his country forever, like most of our presidents have. But he has a significant impact on on how I think a leader should act. And I looked up to him as a leader because he's, like I said, he made a lot of changes, and his way of thinking about things. So I think those 3 people will be like good leaders. All right, so so I give them, if the project can take a little bit longer time, I'd let them know, this project can take a couple of weeks. We have time, even if it's done. If there's some changes that we need to do, we got time. So I think you need to emphasize and tell the folks when they're doing a project for you what the timeline you're looking at, and if there's an error margin for you to correct it if there's a problem. I think I answered your question.
Yeah. So, like, when you're in the courtroom, how do you show your leadership in that?
Well, that's actually a good point, because usually it's, we do plaintiff's work, and then there's usually the defendants. And the defendants many times have either a paralegal with them, or they have junior associates that come in. So I always make the effort to kind of be the leader, and as far as working with the clerk, because our main job as paralegals is to make sure that the clerk's happy, because if the clerk's happy, the judge is happy. So I always try to make sure that I'm the first one in there telling them, hey, you want us to pull these exhibits for you, I can work with the other side. So I try to make myself the point person in the courtroom to assist the clerk. And then I'm also the point person for the attorneys working it. So I make the point to go introduce myself before we even start trial. We have a trial, we're starting in El Centro on the 20th of October. I was there Monday for an inspection. I went to the courthouse and actually went to introduce myself to the clerk, even though she's probably not going to remember who I am, but she'll remember my face when I show up. So she knows that she can reach me and ask me about anything she's going to want us to do jointly with defense counsel. So it's kind of a strategy also, because you want the clerk to like you and to kind of work with you, and then you work with defense counsel rather than go through defense counsel and then work the other way around. So I always make sure that, I'm known to the bailiff, that I'm known to the clerk, and that they know that they can reach me. I leave my business card with my email address if they need something. I make sure that they're always have the documentation that they need for the day. So I always, make the first move, I guess you could say, in the courtroom when we're in trial.
Okay, how do you show your leadership outside of work? What do you do?
Like outside, that has nothing to do with more of a personal way?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good point, because as you know, I coach, and I think as coach, you're a good leader, because you help build young minds. I mean, I know you're a little older, but I coach my kids' teams. One thing is I love spending the time with my kids, but the other thing too is that they're young, they're 9 years old. So for my daughter's team, when I was coaching her soccer team, I showed them, how to be a good leader on the field and how to be a good teammate, how to be a good athlete and be respectable to your other athletes you play against. So I think in showing them how they should be playing the game in a respectful way, and also how they should treat the other team, is being a good leader. And it instills hopefully in my children that they're good leaders, and also the other kids that I coach. My son's team, I spend a little bit more time with them because I coach their baseball team, and there's 13 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds. So showing them to respect the game, to have fun, because at that age you should have fun. It's not about winning or losing. Especially right now we're in fall ball. Fall ball is an instructional league, so this is actually a good time to be a really good leader, because you don't get mad at the kids because they don't, you practice twice a week and then you go to the game and they don't do what you practiced. You take the time, and fortunately in this instructional league, we could walk out and actually tell the kids what to do. So that's how I show it outside. And then, as a father and a husband, I like to think that I'm a good leader at home. I, give each one of my kids responsibilities of stuff, that chores that they should be doing around the house. And I think it's a good leader is that you also, and I also use things around the house. So I show them that, even at home, you're a team, and you all need to do things to make sure that the household runs well and everybody's happy.
What is one characteristic that you believe every leader should have?
I think every leader should be be accepting of criticism. I think everybody, even the big boss here, guys have been practicing forever, one of the best trial lawyers in the United States. He doesn't have a problem with criticism. He doesn't have a problem taking advice. So I think that's very important.
How would you work with someone if they cannot take criticism that well? Like, what other options would you do?
Well, I guess it would depend on what position that person's in. I mean, if it's somebody that's, if somebody, when it comes to trial, there's, you have the attorneys and you have the paralegals, then you have the legal staff working underneath us. So I am, in essence, working for the attorneys in the trial. They're the ones that bring the strategy together, and they know what they want to do and what they want to call. So I can suggest things, but at the end of the day, it's their call. They're the ones that are licensed to practice. So fortunately, I've had experience here that they always welcome my input. They always ask me for things without asking, giving instruction. So I don't think I've ever had an instance where I came across somebody that didn't accept criticism or input from me. But if I did come across, depending on what position, again, if it's an attorney in trial, ultimately, like I said, they're the ones with the license. So I would do it. I would suggest a different way of doing it if I thought there was a better way of doing it. I wouldn't necessarily give criticism, because again, if I know that they're not going to be accepting of my input, then I don't want to criticize them. But I would just eventually just do it the way they want it done, because again, at the end of the day, that's their case. They're the trial attorneys.
How important is respect for you being a leader?
It's very important. Some people say that they'd rather be feared than respected. I think I'd rather be respected than feared. But, I like to be feared too, but more respected than feared. But I think respect is actually, like they say, it's a two-way street. I respect everybody that works for me and I work with, and I expect the same from them. I automatically give everybody respect up to the point that they disrespect or they show disrespect. So I think it's very important. You gotta have, and as a leader, I think you gotta have people that you can count on, that are loyal to you, that you can trust, and and also that respect you and that you can respect. So if there's something that I don't respect necessarily, just maybe they might be a good attorney, but I know outside they're not, it's tough to work with someone like that. But I think it's very important to be respectful with the folks you work.
How would you teach your kids to respect people, or have kids respect them by influence?
Well, it's kind of funny because nowadays, like, the whole big bullying thing is kind of huge. I always tell my kids to walk away, if somebody's giving them a hard time, or if they just walk away. Down the line, that person that was bothering them is trying to end up respecting them because they knew that they did the right thing. I told them, at their age, it's kind of hard to explain because they're so little, but, I can tell them that down the line, they'll understand what I'm telling them. And I tell them to trust me because my parents were the same way with me. When I was little, I didn't believe anything they said. And then now that I'm a father and I know more better, I go, I should listen to them more. So I kind of try to instill that to them, that they should be respectful of everybody, no matter who they are. And if they're disrespected, then they should just walk away.
Now, going back to work, when you do have a problem in the court, as you're saying, and you have to make a quick fix, like your intuition, how would you do that, right away? What would you do?
Well, I guess it would depend on what the problem is that you need to fix. The other thing I always tell with people I work with is if it's bad news, tell me immediately. Because we can, if you have something that happened and you get it corrected, the faster you know about it, the faster you get to working on it. So, depending on what it is, I try to think of an alternative that we can use until we correct the problem, whatever it might be. I don't know if that's kind of big, without having a specific problem. I guess if let's say for instance, it comes out that our exhibits are all messed up, that's a huge thing because we can't call witnesses without exhibits. So if there was an instance where our exhibits were maybe incorrectly numbered, or they were not admitted by the court yet, then an issue is perhaps maybe is to take the witnesses out of order, call witnesses who you've already addressed exhibits with, so that way you don't have a question about the exhibits you're going to use, and then correct the ones that you were going to call with another witness. I'm trying to think of other examples where you might need to do quick fixes in the courtroom. The other thing is I always have my laptop, and I always make sure that I have Wi-Fi. Because for a lot of times we do have problems with most of the pleadings that we use for trials. Our witness lists, the court wants us to do it a certain way. Exhibit lists to do it a different way. So I always make sure that I have my laptop ready to go, and I always make sure that I'm prepared with whatever documents we have in a Word format that can change quickly, knowing that I might need to change it quickly.
How do you continue to grow and develop as a leader? Do you look up to someone?
That's a good question. You know what? I like to think that I don't necessarily look up to somebody, but that I look up to all the people I've worked with. Because I think everybody, like I said at the beginning, I like to work with people, and I like to have people that work with me that don't think the same way I do. So I can, pick up things from them on how they do certain things. Or, if they have an idea on how to do a project faster, or maybe how to address something. For example, we do a lot of discovery responses where we have to answer questions on behalf of our clients. And a lot of times there's certain things that are asked of our clients that we don't necessarily aren't something that we need to provide answers for. So we have to object. There's different kinds of objections you can use. So I like to look at other people's work to see if there's something in there that I could use in my material. And then vice versa. A lot of people like to ask me what kind of objections I use, so I provide them with that. So I like to think that I don't necessarily look up to anybody, but I look up to everybody I work with because I like to pick things that they do that I don't do that I can encompass in my daily work so that I can make my job easier. And you know what? Like they said, there's no better way of complimenting somebody than flattering them, and using somebody's material is very, very flattering.
What advice can you give me in becoming a better leader?
Like the three things I told you that are kind of important for leaders: be accepting of criticism, be accepting of people's other inputs and try to, surround yourself with people that don't think necessarily the same way you do, so that they're bringing something new to your team, and be approachable. Let people know that they can always come and ask you or talk to you about stuff, and bounce ideas with you, or you're always approachable. Your door's always open. And don't be so quick to judge people sometimes too, because even though they might not do it the same way you do, the end product might be as good as yours or even better. So you shouldn't judge so quickly.